Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 56 of the PD Sports Podcast. Once again, we are into our final Premier League preview episode. We've got the top four from last season today to unpack, and with me once again is Damo. Damo, how you going?
Not bad and yourself, mate. It's another day. It's another Premier League podcast episode, and cannot wait to get into the top four of last season.
Yep, unreal. So we are ready to go. If you have missed any of our previous episodes on our predictions, make sure you either get into the podcast link in the description of this podcast or the video, or vice versa if you want to watch us talk about it. I think all four have been uploaded now to YouTube as well. So if you want to physically watch us talk through this, then make sure you jump over to my YouTube channel. Dame's links are all there as well if you want to jump in on his socials or his Twitch. But I think we're going to jump straight in. So finishing fourth last year was Spurs. They're my one big sort of surprise packet here this season. They're the team with probably the most variance, or probably the most likely to fall out of the top four potentially. A few new faces between Perisic, Basuma, Richarlison as well. I think with a full pre-season under Conte here, I'm expecting some good things out of Spurs. What have you taken so far out of their pre-season?
I just like how they've gone about it. I think it's absolutely amazing what they've done so far in pre-season. You know, Conte's first full pre-season, every little press clipping you see of Spurs' pre-season's players being gassed, they're being trained hard, they're going to be fit, they're going to be physical. And the whole reason they back Conte in and back Conte early is to get these players integrated in this pre-season process of this very physical and demanding pre-season they're going through. The only question mark's Perisic. He's obviously got a bit of a knock and a bit of an injury, so who knows where he comes into the squad or how he integrates himself. But the rest of what Conte's done under pre-season, what they've done is really, really promising. They definitely are the team, though, with the most variance, as you mentioned. You know, it is Spurs, and it'll be typical Spursy to do all the right things, and then they bottle it all up come the start of the season. But I actually think their ceiling's a lot higher than people give them credit for.
Yep.
And I don't think their floor's too far behind.
It's a good squad now. It's solid.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll break it down a little bit more, but I think for them, they're either going to finish fifth or higher, and if they finish below fifth, that's a year where you look at Conte and it could become sackable, because I actually think the spot they're in now is a really good place to be in if you're a Spurs fan.
Yeah, especially with Champions League football this year as well. They've obviously had that attraction from different players, which has been really positive to see. My big thing is the utilisation of Harry Kane, and I feel like it's going to be very Diego Costa-esque without the extra carry on that Costa would do. But, you know, when you take away that off-the-ball stuff from Diego Costa, he was the best striker in the league during that period. Like, he was lethal, and I see Kane being used in a very similar way, where he's got those tricky wingers, you know, like Son and Hazard, you know, like I feel like that I'm seeing similarities, and that's dangerous. Like for Spurs to be able to have runners like Richarlison and Lucas Moura and Kulusevski and Son with Kane, there's going to be goals in this team. For me, it's how solid are they, and them getting Basuma, who's mental, and that is massive. Like they are crying out for a pure number 8 box-to-box midfielder that's going to run the show. And then it's, you know, Romero coming back from a long-term injury. Defensively, I've still got questions. I don't think the centre of defence is solid enough. Eric Dyer actually looked okay towards the end of last season with Romero. Is there anyone else there that really steps in and helps out? Maybe they still look late in the window for another centre-back potentially. That's just what I'm sort of thinking. That's the only weak spot. They've strengthened their backup goalkeeper. They've got Fraser Forster to come and put some actual competition to Lloris, which might actually force Lloris to have to actually play well, because he's had moments last year where he was unreal and then moments where he was dreadful. So I think some consistency from Lloris would be helpful, but defensively for me is the big question. I think Perisic at right back looks good. Reguilon or Davies or Sessegnong's kind of good enough, I'd say, on the left. But yeah, that middle of defence and that midfield partner for Basuma, who really, I don't really know who's going to sit and be the more defensive option, because I think Basuma plays his best football when he's got a bit of licence to do what he needs to do, up and back, a bit of a Kante-esque role with a bit more going forward.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the only thing I would say is I think Perisic is actually going to play on the left when he's fit. Because I think Reguilon's fallen out of favour. Sessegnon be the backup to him. And everyone forgets about Doherty and how good he is and how much he will play probably on the right. And I think that's another dimension to
Got to stay fit, though.
At the back. Yeah, is that he's got to stay fit. And they've got Emerson Royale as well. So they've got plenty of wing backs. So I think that's where Perisic probably goes to the left instead of staying on the right.
The rotation for Sun, Champions League games. There's going to be big games, big moments.
Oh, yeah,
plenty
100%.
of opportunities.
The back three is the interesting one about how you that up. And if it's Romero with Dyer with one of the others, I actually think Doherty in some games could even step into the three as well.
Yeah, he did it at Wolves a bit.
Yeah, I also think there's definitely cases to be said that the midfield two may include, Basuma Bomanon being a bit more aggressive and actually Dyer stepping into the middle of the park to be that sitter and that one that wins that ball back. I can see that happening as well. So they have some flexibility in that squad, which is what I like.
And they've got Bentancur as well.
Yeah,
Links.
and good player.
Højbjerg. Højbjerg Basuma is a good two.
Yeah, they would be. And I think that's the two they would go with, and Dyer would play centre-back. And just more, they have some flexibility in that three at the back with that midfield too, especially with Basuma now probably being the most nailed-on midfielder out of the lot.
Yeah.
You just find your best partnership with him, if it's Højbjerg, or if it's, Dyer stepping in, or if it's,
Bentancur.
Yeah. But I just think if they sign a centre-back, their potential this season could be massive, to the point where I'm like, and I know this might upset some Chelsea fans.
Oh, they've got Longley from Barcelona as well.
Yeah, that's the other sign we're forgetting at the back.
And they've just brought Jed Spence in too. So
the right-hand side.
For the right-hand side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
which makes me think Reguilon's out the field.
Potentially, because he probably wants to be the starter.
Yep.
World Cup year as well. Probably, might look for a move to Spain somewhere where there's, a bit of a vacancy there where he can play some consistent minutes. But the other centre-back that I'm sort of looking at here is maybe a breakout year for Tanganga as well.
Yeah, it could be.
Given minutes, or Joe Rodon, I think his name is too. Another young centre-back. They don't have that extra experienced option. They've got three. You'd say Longley, Romero, Dyer as a three, but in a season where you're competing for two domestic cups, the Premier League, the Champions League, they're going to have to rely on some kids. And I think Tanganga's now been around long enough. He should have enough Premier League experience to be able to step in and do a role now, because he did come on with a lot of hype and a lot of pressure, but I think he's been around the mark. Interesting to see how Longley settles in as well from Barcelona. That's just a little cheeky transfer that I didn't even see. I've just seen that now when I'm looking at their playlist.
Look, and I think that it just shows that they've got their business done so quick, so early, that will they jump in for one more?
Probably not.
Maybe not. I don't think they will, because I think Conte wanted everyone in for his pre-season.
Still got Sanchez as well. Still got Sanchez.
Yeah.
I don't really rate.
Davison as well. He's more of a player that if you play FIFA, Football Manager with his physicals, you kind of love, but in real life, he's a bit of a walking train wreck. So, but
squad player,
he's another option.
Carabao Cup, injuries. Yeah.
And look, I think they're going to get by, and the flexibility in that squad, the ability of players going forward, he's got his men in early, Conte in positions where he needed it. He wanted to make sure that Reguilon wasn't the starting left back. Sessegnon's not ready to be the starting left back, as shown. So he's got in his man Perisic. He knows on the right-hand side he's got Jed Spence now and Doherty, who are going to be a pretty good two to work and rotate. And you've got a world-class front three. You've got Kane, you've got Son, and you've got Dejan Kulusevski or Richarlison.
Or Lucas Moura.
And then you've got Lucas Moura filling in. And Lucas Moura can play even right wing-back.
Or through the middle.
It's now a season where if you lose Son for 3 to 4 weeks or Kane for 3 to 4 weeks,
there's
I've got options.
Yeah.
And
that's what they didn't have last year. They've still got Steven Bergwijn as well, I think, don't they?
Yeah. And it's the first time I've looked at Spurs and gone, oh, they've actually got a full, proper blown squad. Like, look at the best Spurs teams that you've seen over time. Look back at Bale. It was Bale and Van der Vaart and, Modric, was it not, in the middle?
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, okay, but if you lose one of them, who else you got?
Yeah.
And then from there, you're then looking at, the Spurs teams that went on that run against Liverpool. They lost an injury somewhere in there in that Champions League run. They're probably out because they don't have a squad to compete.
Kane was injured for the final and so had to play.
Yeah. Like, if you look at that and then look to what Conte's done this season, they've actually got a squad that can compete on multiple fronts. Are there enough options in every position where they can still be world class if they lose players? And especially up top, they're going to be dangerous, dynamic, and with 5 subs, the amount of firepower off the bench.
Yeah, you don't want to play them.
I actually think they're going to be quite deadly. And with that 5 sub rule, expect to see that Lucas Moura with one of Dejan or Richarlison coming on 70th minute or 5 defenders.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult to contend with.
And then Winks and Skip to like lock midfield up as well if they're winning in games as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
it's
agree.
a good squad.
And it's going to sound a little ludicrous, and I said that, United would be better if they didn't have Ronaldo, but I honestly think Spurs, if they finish outside 5th, Conte's failed massively.
Probably walks as well at that point.
My prediction is they finish 3rd ahead of Chelsea.
Yeah, it's a big shout, but I think the big question is, whenever you do bring in 4 or 5 new names into a squad, it's how quickly can they blend. So it might be that they start slow potentially. Like Harry Kane traditionally doesn't get going until he doesn't like August. Everyone knows that. Every FPL player knows that Harry Kane doesn't like August, but I just don't see a world at the moment where he doesn't score bags this year. If he's got that much around him, like the pressure's not on him anymore. Like he doesn't have to do it all. Like this is the best team or the best squad on paper that he's had around him since he's been the man. That's better than the 2015-16 team that finished 2nd or 3rd in the end, but they finished 3rd, but they were in the race with Leicester. This is a better Spurs team than that, and this is a better Spurs team that made the Champions League final.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and with a better manager as well. And
it's dangerous.
That's actually bad. That's an interesting discussion. We maybe not have that discussion right now.
I'd say it is
half down. I would say
short
it's
answer.
Close. Yeah, it's close. But I just feel like this Kane situation in August, he scored goals, I think, last
year he broke it, I think.
Yeah, and I just, look,
it's just a funny talking point, isn't it, though?
Yeah.
That's all it is. He's going to score goals. He's going to score so many goals. If you got, like, they can't just block the middle anymore against Spurs like teams used to. And they used to say, beat us out wide because you didn't have the quality. But you're not giving...
Dejan and Son.
Yeah, or Richarlison and Lucas. Like, it's just...
Like, they've got to be good.
And then you don't even talking about, like, Alfie Devine coming into the team or Troy Parrott or Dane Scarlett. They're actually getting minutes, in pre-season. So... Man, it's a good team.
I feel like a couple of them will get loaned out because of how good the squad is. But I honestly think the potential Spurs this year is scary to the point where I would be putting him into my predicted top, 3rd spot. And if it's a year that it doesn't look like it would be the year where Liverpool and City, all of a sudden don't get 90-plus points, because I just think that they're the next 2 above. Not because I support Liverpool, but because of what we've seen so far from Liverpool and City. If it was a year where it was a normal Premier League season where Liverpool and City maybe finish on 80-something points, there's a world where Spurs could run that title race all the way to the end with the squad they have. There is no reason to.
Yeah.
But obviously that's not the case. Liverpool and City on that next level, and we'll talk about them a little bit later. But I do see a world where they finish 3rd ahead of Chelsea, but it would be typical Spurs to see them finish 5th or 6th with all this hype and all this...
and bundling out of the Champions League as well.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden Conte is sacked and they need another manager, and what's Poch doing?
Yeah, fair point. So we'll move across London to Chelsea, where the pre-season has been a bit different for them so far. So they've lost Rudiger, they've lost Christensen, which are, have been 2 pillars, in that defence for a while. They obviously bring in Koulibaly, who I'm umming and ahhing about. I think he's still got quality, like he's a good centre back. But this is a transfer that's taken 2 years for him to get to the Premier League, and he's been bounced around a bit. So I find that, why wasn't that deal done? Was it Napoli not wanting to sell for whatever price, or were there concerns? So I think he fits in a 3 comfortably. He probably plays with Thiago Silva. We know Azpi's gone as well now, so maybe it's Chalobah's turn to step in. We saw moments last year where Trevor Chalobah did step in and do a good job. Midfield-wise, obviously Gallagher returns. Sterling makes his move across. The midfield, for me, is still not amazing. Like, I think you're still looking at Kante, Jorginho. I feel like Gallagher probably should, by January, have that spot locked in, potentially, of Jorginho's. I think he's starting to get a bit, bit slow for the Premier League. Another big, a lot of fixture congestion. I think Gallagher has shown he deserves a spot. Kovacic is actually a really good option still, so I'd probably push him. Then up front, I'm worried with Chelsea. I'm worried about where goals are going to come from because Havertz has shown glimpses as a 9,
Yep.
but I still don't think that's his best role. But in this current Chelsea team, he's probably going to have to play up front unless they sign somebody. Brozier looks like he's going out, and then it's Timo. So I think we saw patches last year of Pulisic where he looked really good. I've been really critical of him as well since coming to the Premier League. But he had spells where he looked unplayable and then spells where nothing went right for him. So I'm leaning towards your viewpoint, which is pretty rare, around Spurs. Like me feeling more confident that Spurs will finish off better than Chelsea, unless the new owners can bring someone in late.
Yeah, I get that. And I think there is in the pipe where they're looking at a couple other centre-backs to come in and fill that void. And they need it if they're going to play free at the back, which looks like they still want to as well. For me, it's more the fact that I have them pinned as 4th is they're a bit more unsettled this year. They've lost a lot of their, normal quartet at the back that made the 3 at the back so successful. The 5 at the back, wherever you want to look at it.
Yeah.
I still think it'll be the same typical Chelsea. They'll get people in wide areas, they'll come inside, the wing backs will bomb on, and they still will look good. I think the biggest person you didn't mention, and I think it's the guy that they need to get going for the whole entire season for them to finish well, is Mason Mount.
Yeah.
And without Mount, I actually think Chelsea become a lot worse of a side, that it is a bit scary if you're a Chelsea fan if Mount doesn't get going. I think Havertz is obviously not a bad option in 9 because he's that type of, Tuchel 9.
If they're going to keep it on the ground.
Yeah.
And he drifts in. How does Mount fit for you on the left of a 3?
I don't mind him there, and I don't mind him in the middle. And then obviously in the middle, then you've got to wear not having as strong of a 2 if he plays a 2. If he plays a 3 through the middle, it's a bit interesting as well. And then goes into 2 up top.
Yeah.
But that's very narrow.
I think left. I think he's just going to end up on the left with Chilwell providing the width.
Which I don't think is bad, and I think that's okay for Mount. He's very creative.
And
I feel like he's one of those guys that you can put...
He'll tuck in with Havertz potentially too. So if Havertz is dropping in, then Mount can kind of drift and be a bit more central as well, and rely on whoever the left central midfielder is to sort of, be that, whether it's Kovacic, maybe that's where Kovacic slots in and he gets a bit more freedom and then he works a bit more with Chilwell. Yeah.
Yeah, and good player too, Kovacic. I'll rate him highly.
He's underrated. Dom loves him.
But for me, it's where if you look at Spurs, they're so settled. The signings come in early. A full pre-season under a manager that clearly knows what he wants, what he's getting, and what his pre-season regime is. You look at Chelsea, players on the out. You're losing Azpilicueta now. Very late on. We say very late on. It's not like it's August 30th. But late on in pre-season.
But you're 2 weeks away from the first game.
Yeah, and for them, it's up in the air. And, when we're looking in and we're questioning, are they actually going to play a 4 at the back or a 5 at the back? And Chelsea are known to play 5. That's when you know that, hang on, they're not as settled. And that's what always makes me go and look at them and go, they might start slow and they might not start, as good at defense as they had last year. Does that mean they're going to be automatically bad and looking at 6th, 7th and their defense is going to be horrid? No, will still probably be a top 4 defense. It will be a bit more unsettled. And I think in those early fixtures, until they figure each other out, that could be 4 games, that could be 8 games, that could be 15 games to the World Cup. You might get an unsettled Chelsea. And for me, that's enough with Spurs, how good their squad is, that Spurs will be more consistent and obviously finish in the 3rd place and Chelsea finish 4th. I would love to be wrong because I do like watching Chelsea and I do like watching Tuchel. I especially
and it's free-flowing.
I especially love when the ball falls into Kovacic and he sprays one out to James and next minute it's Chilwell at the back stick. I love watching that shit. It's the best.
What saves Chelsea for me is their run. So they get Everton first, then they play Spurs straight away, so that'll be a good test for them. But then Leeds, Leicester, Southampton, West Ham, Fulham, us, Palace, Wolves, Villa, Brentford, United, Brighton, Arsenal, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest. Like it's favourable.
It's spaced out.
Yeah.
The big games are spaced out and they've got a lot of good fixtures in between those games. So they have time to settle and they may not even be that good in those games but get points because of that.
Yeah.
If they had a clunk of games like Chelsea, Liverpool City in a row, United, Liverpool City in a row, that could be dangerous at this point because they're a bit unsettled. I would like to see Chelsea sign another centre-back. outside.
Yeah, they need
I know
one.
there's talks going on with a lot of other, another other paces there for themselves as well. But for me, it's more they have to rely a lot on probably Chalobah doing a big amount of the legwork back there. They
Which
have
is
to rely a
scary.
lot on, Mendy playing out of his skin, which he can do, and they have to rely a lot on the attacking output of James and Chilwell, well, to the point of if one of them goes down, who do they play there?
Yeah,
And
because
they
we saw that they
immediately
were
after
different
losing,
with Alonso than Chilwell last year. Like, it wasn't the same.
and apparently Alonso and Tuchel have not got along towards the end of last season. I don't know if there's any fallout still happening from that either.
Fair enough.
Apparently there's a bit of a bust up at the end of the last game of the season, but hence why I haven't even bothered looking at Alonso for fantasy.
Nah, he don't
But
start anyway.
for me, it's when you look at Spurs, you can pinpoint who the replacements are, how they're going to line up, who they're going to be. You look at Chelsea, they lose James. Who's playing right back? Is it Trevor? Is it Callum Hudson-Odoi? Is it do they go and put one of the midfielders in there? Do they fit Conor Gallagher in at right back, at right wing back if James goes down?
Pulisic has done that role in the past too. Yeah,
It's
not the
chopping
same.
and changing.
Yeah.
It's not the same. And then you lose someone from up top, because they're lining up three up top, and then they've lost. They brought Sterling in. It's more than likely Havertz, Mount, Sterling. Then it's Hudson-Odoi. But if Hudson-Odoi has to play right wing back and then lose another one, I don't see the free flowing options.
Yeah.
For me, I think they're one midfielder too heavy in the middle of the park, and they're one centre back too light. To the point where I'm like, if a good bid came in for Jorginho, or if Callum I don't think they will, but if Conor Gallagher got another loan to Palace, I would use that as an impetus to go, okay, I need to get the centre back in now.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
That hasn't happened.
And I don't see them playing with a 3 in midfield either, because I feel like they don't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I get that too. I get that as well.
Yeah. So
I'm
I think they need a striker as well. I don't know. They need goals too. There's so much with Chelsea. Look, that's what's going to play out. That's the interesting bit is there's lots to play out still. There's still 2 weeks. It's not the end of the world, but it's not the hype that was there from last year.
I think we always forget about Ziyech as well, because the guy is clearly talented, but I don't see him being much of a factor either. And then I think they've got Sarr at the back in as well, by memory too. But I want to see
Malang Sarr. I haven't liked what I've seen of him so far, and a few Chelsea fans that I've spoken to are of the same opinion that, end of the day, it was a free transfer from Nice. Like, yes, he had hype, but if, the circumstances that he joined Chelsea were a bit dodge. I think if Nice knew they had an asset there, they would have cashed out earlier, potentially too. And from what I have seen, it hasn't been fantastic. But numbers are numbers at this point, and there's games galore, and he'll play games. That's the thing. Yeah. He's a centre-back. If he's fit, he'll play. But, you don't want to be going in. But it's rare that you lose 3 in one win, like 3 starters in one window. And one of them's your backup right wing back as well, which Aspi covered very well last year. And then, Rudiger and Christensen were 2, nailed on centre back. So it's rare times, and, a lot to play out for Chelsea. So I'm excited, though, to see what happens, because there's a lot of question marks. And if Tuchel can get those questions answered early, then they'll be fine. But it's got the potential to snowball, which is going to be interesting for me.
And that all snowballed from what happened with them last season with the sale of the club, etc. And a lot was resting on a very elderly Thiago Silva, and you saw it against Liverpool. Even though they weren't exploiting the FA Cup final, we got injured and played injured in that final.
Yeah,
and we should have scored 5 or 6. We never did.
He's so good,
but he is unbelievable, and I rate him highly. He's one of the best centre backs that has played in the modern day.
I agree.
His record precedes himself. But how long can you rely on the guy to be
36, 37 years old?
I just worry for Chelsea in their lack of squad depth, and that's why I have them 4th. I'm not going to go out here and say they're going to be horrid. I'm not going to go out here and say they're going to finish outside the top 4. But there is definitely a world where they do finish outside the top 4 if it all snowballs wrongly.
Yeah.
But they've got too good of a manager and too many good players going forward that I feel like they'll save themselves anyway.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move north. Very far north. I don't think we need to go into too much depth here with Liverpool and City, because they're that much ahead at this point. I find it very hard to see either of the 2 teams dropping off. So we'll focus on Liverpool. this might not actually take as long as you guys might think, because from a Liverpool perspective, we've gone and got some extra depth in old mate Ramsey at the back as a fullback option.
Very good fullback.
Obviously, Darwin Núñez as well has come in this season. We get Nat Phillips back, but I'd expect him to go back out on loan.
Looks like Bournemouth.
Yeah, which makes sense because he had a good loan spell there. We bring in Cavallo in the midfield, and it looks like he's going to play in that creative part of the midfield three, which I love. I think that's going to suit him the best.
Yeah.
Which is really positive. We get Harvey Elliott back from some long-term injuries as well. Again, we said at this time last year, we didn't know what his role was going to be. He's playing midfield. I got that 100%. One wrong. I got that wrong.
If he didn't get injured, he would have.
He was in the team.
Midfield. Yeah, he was in the team. He was playing unreal.
Yeah.
I know you got that wrong. I got that right. I'm going to pump myself up here.
Yeah.
But it's only because
I still like him as a winger if you need him out there. But exactly. He was that good. He was that good in that 10 or 8 role.
Oh, he was unbelievable.
Him, Cavallo, Keita are kind of playing for the one spot, I feel, in that 3.
So too. Yeah. And Thiago and Fabinho nailed on with Jordan Henderson. And that's like,
Well, we've got options, which is what we've been crying out for. And then up front...
a creative option, at least.
And then we've got Jota, Firmino, Núñez, Salah as the real nailed-on forward options. Yeah, obviously, you lose... Oh, and Diaz as well, sorry. And we lose Divock and Mane out of that. So, look, I don't want to go on heaps about Liverpool because we lost 2 games last year and we missed out on winning the league. How much better do you have to be? You can't draw 7 like we did, I think it was. I think we drew 7 games, I think. Who knows? Honestly, for me, it's a flip of the coin. Who gets the least amount of injuries? Who can put the run of games together? Who's got the squad depth? Who's settled? We're probably more settled, I'd say, than City at the moment. I think there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of Fernandinho's gone. Sterling's gone. There's changes happening at City. There's a lot of movement. There's not normally this much movement, and we'll get into the City transfers when we get to City. I think that's a positive for Liverpool. Yes, we've lost Mane, but we bought the replacement in January. So, yes, Mane started playing through the midfield, through the middle more at the end of last year. That's just Darwin straight in. But the real replacement was Diaz, and they knew the pressure was there from Spurs, so the club pounced on it in January. And when did Mane move into the middle?
Once Diaz nailed himself on. Because
everyone knew internally, and we all said it. Like we were saying that Mane is the one that's going to go before Salah. All the talk was Salah gone because he's not signing his contract. He was always signing that contract. I never at one point felt that Salah was gone. I was openly saying, and I was a pro Mane person with a Mane Champions League winners top in my house, saying I think Mane's done. From what I was hearing, everyone uses the bullshit excuse of, Senegal said Mane's gone. We knew from the middle of the season that Mane was a big possibility of leaving because he's done it all in England. Like, he was ready for another challenge. It didn't surprise me that now he's going to Bayern and he's the man. I think he needed a club where he's the guy.
Yeah.
And he was a great servant for our club, and he can leave. I would have loved to send him off with the Champions League. That would have been brilliant, especially against Madrid after he was so good against Madrid in that first final on 2000 and whatever hell it was, 17. Would have loved for us to send him off with another medal. But that everyone asks what's going to happen without Mane. I am perfectly fine, which I never thought I'd say, with him gone. Because I believe that the goals will come for Darwin. He's copping a lot of crap on social media because of his pre-season. I don't care, at all, to be honest. He's learning a language. He's getting used to a new system. Goals are goals. He was scoring almost a goal a game in Portugal and in the Champions League last season for Benfica. That tells you enough.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I don't read into any of that on social media. It's just a lot of people,
At a
like go
board.
and yeah, they're just pinging people down because that's what they do on social media.
Yeah.
Same way with like Haaland and, Haaland this, Haaland that, and what happens if Pep rotating. Haaland's got to bang for 25 goals in this
And
season
Haaland
coming up
doesn't
as
play
well.
full seasons anyway. He gets injured all the
Yeah.
time too.
And he's
So
still going to bang 20 to 25 goals in. So with Darwin playing, it's going to be the same. I'm not going to say they're on the same pedestal because I'm not deluded, but for me, if Darwin first season gets me 15 goals,
yeah.
I'm still going to get 20 goals out of Salah. I'm
Well,
still going
we're
to
only
get
getting
10.
22, 23 out of Mane, who was
Yeah.
settled. So
And
that's what I'm
I'm
comparing
going
it
to get
to.
10 plus out of Diaz easy without putting any pressure on him. He's going to get 10. If I want to put pressure on him, I think he could get 15 to 20 because
Yeah.
he's that good.
And he can go
And then
15-15 though as well. That's the thing. You get 15 assists too.
Yeah, and look at the rest of the team where our goals come from too. It's not like we're a team that relies on only one goal.
Anymore. Yeah.
Our midfield can score goals. Trent Alexander-Arnold can
Scores.
score goals. Robertson, if he ever wanted to finish in his life, could score goals.
He does pop up at the back post a bit, doesn't he?
Mate, we've got a team where we have a goalkeeper that can score goals. So
Yeah,
I'm not worried when it comes to anyone on social media going this, that, whatever. It's all because he got a chance against United in a game we did not obviously give a crap about, which I don't even care. It was more funny to watch because we had so many kids that were never.
We played 32 players.
Yeah, like who does that?
Yeah.
We went there just to go sit on the beach and go, "Welcome back, boys." And
That was it though. The pre-season is so scheduled.
yeah.
That's why I love the way we do things. Like,
Yeah, we don't do it normal. People go in big preseason, you name it. Don't get me wrong, we do the work at Melwood and do that lactis test.
the lactate threshold test, bloody Milner.
Right, and we run them off the socks. But the whole point for our preseason, we go over place is actually more bonding, get the boys together, enjoy it. We will play games of football. And it'd be nice to try. But for us, it was just go over there as a squad and.
Do you think that's because we're settled and we can get into it slowly? But so United, so I said this in a chat on a stream, Tony FM stream. That game, so he's me United supporter. The way I said it, I said that individual game was two teams at two very different stages of their preseason. New manager at Man United, players playing for positions, players trying to impress, Ten Hag trying to get his system in place. Where Liverpool, it was, we've had a big-ass bloody season. We are slowly getting our team back. Two of their goals came because we've switched 11 players out for another 11 players that have got no feel for the game. So I don't look into the results of preseason.
Never have.
I just want to make sure that the right players are getting the right minutes and are getting accustomed to who they're going to play with. That's what I cared more about. End of the day, we can go on forever with Liverpool, but I think the way we need to put it is we are going to be competing on all fronts again for another season. My big worry is how hard does the World Cup hit us? Who makes the final of the World Cup? Is it a player of a nationality that's in our squad? Maybe, maybe not. How early do we get our players back versus City is going to make a huge difference come the end of the season.
I agree with
We're
that.
lucky that Salah's not going. I think that's massive. That is absolutely massive that he gets a month fresh.
Compared to last year.
Yep, after going to AFCON.
And look what he did tired last year. He still averaged 7+ fantasy points a game last year in a second half of the year only. He still averaged more than 7 points, 7.4.
And he was on his feet.
And he apparently he was off his feet and had a really poor whatever.
Yeah.
Second half of the year. And that's how immortal the man is for us, and that's why he stayed over Mane. And we that's where the contract.
And they paid the money.
Yeah, but. We could speak about Liverpool all day. It's more the fact we're not worried about pre-season. We're in a different stage of pre-season than United were. We'll probably still beat United when we play them in around week 3.
Yeah, got them early.
Week 3 or week 4, whatever it is. And we
3.
will be fighting on all fronts. I am going to go out here and put the prediction in place straight away that we are going to finish second in the league. But I am a big believer if everything gels quickly that we will top our Champions League group and be thereabouts to make another final again this year for the Champions League.
And go deep.
And go deep and give it another crack. It could be very similar to 17, 18, and then 18, 19, where we go the second year and win it.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah,
And the beauty of being a Liverpool fan is that you can believe that and be happy with that. But if someone tells me right now, we finished second, finished just missed out on City, we made the Champions League semi-final, we lose in the FA Cup semi, and we lose in the Carabao Cup semi, I'm still going to sit here and go, you know what? That's not a bad year of some new signings and a little bit of, change in the squad as well. And
yeah,
we're happy with that.
100%. All right, let's move about an hour away to Manchester, and I've just pulled up the City playing squad currently, and we have forgotten somebody that's gone back to Chelsea. Who's a centre back? Do you remember?
Gone back to Chelsea.
Nathan Ake.
Has that been done yet, though?
I'm pretty sure it's happening regardless.
I'm pretty sure it's happening too, but it's not done.
It's not 100% official done, but I did forget to mention him, and I've just looked. As soon as I looked at the defence, I saw Ake. I was like, shit, we didn't talk about him. So, if he goes to Chelsea, then that doesn't change everything, but that helps. I think they need him and Koundé, and then I'm a bit happier.
Yeah, same. See, I'm like that too, because they play for three centre backs. Yeah.
So, move away from Ake. We're banking on him not being at City. But you never know. Strange things have happened. So, City transfers so far. New backup goalkeeper, Ortega. Probably a good thing. I didn't really rate Zach Steffen. I think his performance in the Carabao Cup final was probably... Was it Carabao? No, semi-final, sorry. FA Cup semi-final, sorry. When Paramount had that crappy camera angle of everything. I think that was his moment where City are like, okay, go play. Because, I think that'd be really tough for a goalkeeper that doesn't play much. As a cup goalkeeper who's probably had 2 months off, go play the semi-final against Liverpool. I'd go, I know you've got us there, but is this the right preparation? Maybe not. So poor him. But they've gone and bought someone in, so you'd say that he's probably out the door at the end of the season regardless. Defensively, it looks like there's just some young kids that have been put up. So there's Luke Mbede Taboo. I'm not sure where he's come from. And there's... Pardon? I assume he's French. And Josh Wilson S. Brand as well. I'm assuming he's probably in the academy. Zinchenko, official to Arsenal, I think, or very close. That's done. Massive for him, because I think he can play midfield or left back. But that means City obviously lose. I think him going means Cucurella's coming in. I think that's kind of the process.
I think so, but I'm not sure.
I'd be pretty confident that by next week, Cucurella's a City player. And the one thing City have where it works well is they don't have to rush him in, because Cancelo can do a job there for a little bit at left back whilst Cucurella gets used to things. So that's not too bad. Midfield-wise, I think their only additions being Calvin Phillips.
Yep, good signing.
Which is a brilliant signing. Good Fernandinho replacement. Like Fernandinho prime replacement, not current Fernandinho, who probably played a bit more at centre-back. But yeah, between sort of Rodri, Phillips... Gundogan, Bernardo, Foden, De Bruyne, combinations of three of that, it's going to be dangerous. That's going to be really dangerous.
Always dangerous. And then Mahrez can even fill in the middle there, being a creative player through the middle. So they're going to be dangerous.
Yeah, and then obviously Erling Haaland, main man up front, Julian Alvarez, who signed in January. Interesting to see where he'll fit in, whether he fits in on the wing or whether he fits in up front. I think he's naturally a 9, but has the potential to play a bit wider if needed. And then Mahrez, Bernardo as well. Foden's played out on the wings too. So, look, we know what City's going to be. We know what Pep's going to do. 4-3-3. One inverted wing back pretty well. That that sits in the midfield and pushes on and helps out, and just fluid creativity all around. I think City, again, powerhouse, doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't at this point, really does it. We know, like, there's not much more to say about Man City other than they need to win a Champions League, I think, at this point, because they've been so dominant in the Premier League, but they're going to score goals.
100%.
And if they can keep Laporte and Diaz fit, I think that's the key. I think the one weakness you'd say about this team, especially if they lose Ake, is centre-back depth. That would be my one concern at the moment, and they can't really have an injury at centre-back.
It's already started. Like, Laporte's had a knock. Stones ain't ready.
I forgot about Stones.
And Diaz is there as the only real fit centre-back at the minute. And not including Nathan Ake, because I think he's gone. But at the moment at City, that could change. Still a week and a half to the Carabao Cup, and 2 weeks and a bit till the league starting. So, with that being said, I do think City are going to be too strong yet again. They're just unbelievably unreal. I think a lot of City season is going to be determined about Champions League football, where they sit, how they go, and can they win it. I'm almost at the stage now where I'm like, you know what, just let Pep have another crack at it because it'd be good to watch either way if they win it. Great,
Yeah.
well done, kudos, what a time. May mean Pep leaves the league, which is great for us, gives us a couple of years of clock without Pep. And it'd also be great to watch them make another final and make a hash of it because they did the last time. But, you know, in terms of just the Premier League, they're going to be too strong. Haaland may only play 20 to 25 games this season, and he's going to score a goal a game. And
Yeah,
it
he's
may
going to
not be that
dominate.
it may not be that he must not score in the first 1 or 2 games. He'll then score 4 in another. You know,
He's just
the
a
amount of
beast.
balls going to be coming in and across that box to Haaland inside the 18-yard box is a joke. That's
Yeah.
why I really thought they were going to pick up Harry Kane a year ago because Kane's a bit more durable. Kane has got the same finishing ability, and if Kane was there for 38 games, he's getting 38 to 40 goals a season. I think Haaland, if he stayed fit for 38 games, could do the same. Don't think he does because it's Haaland. But he's still going to score 25 goals in 25 games in a City side that won the league last year and decided to then sign Haaland. That's how good they are. And
Yeah.
as much as we think at centre back they're a little bit fragile and they do get injuries, never seems to worry them. So I think they're going to be nailed on for me as being
Favourites.
team base.
Yeah.
Favourites, they're going to be quality. And you know what? At the end of the day, you put your neutral hat on. City games on TV as the early kickoff. You sit there, you watch it because they are the best Premier League side that we can ever enjoy in the history of the Prem.
Yeah.
You might as well sit here and enjoy it. As much as I'm a Liverpool fan,
It's what's made the Premier League so good, though, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
this has been the best Liverpool team for bloody 30 years, and they've got someone to go against. And I don't, maybe it's a bit of bias, but I don't think Liverpool's got the credit that it deserves because of how good City have been. And I think people that don't support either City or Liverpool really get it because they go, Liverpool only lost 2 games and didn't win the league. Yeah, because City lost 4 but only drew 5. Like, you know what I mean?
It's just a nice time to be a Premier League watcher because there's so much competition for that top spot that, you know, we could lose we play, I don't know, let's pick it out. Leicester game week 13. I don't even think that's right.
Well, that was the game that we bloody threw it away.
I mean, you said last year, you said it smack bang on the head, that could be the game that cost us the title. It was.
Yeah.
But we lose that game, that, you know, to a mere mortal, that's just a game lost in game week 13. The way it is, that's the game that costs you the league come game week 38. And
how mental is that? Where back in Fergie's day, man, it didn't the pressure wasn't there because they could lose 5-6 games at the time and still win the league. Because does it mean that the league, the gap wasn't as big, like between the top 4? So more teams took more points off each other. Like,
yeah, that's it.
Because when you have 2 teams get 198, 99 points in the same league, like, it's mental. That means they just don't lose. Like, no one's doing anyone else a favour. Like, it's just crazy.
More the different type of eras of football. And we're not saying that Fergie's team with United and his dynasty or whatever is trash compared to this.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. But
we're not saying that before anyone gives us any sort of thing. It's more the fact that back then the Arsenal, you know, United battles and the United Chelsea battles were more the fact that on any given day, Liverpool, who were dead horrid, could rock up to Old Trafford and get 4 goals because Gerrard and Torres went ballistic.
Yeah.
Or it was, you know, Arsenal played Chelsea and Wenger got the team to fire on that day and took points off Chelsea when United and Chelsea were going for it, or vice versa, right? It would have been, you know, there was other teams that were flying around the times, you know, that, you know, finished top 8 out of nowhere and took points off each other.
Yeah.
The gap between the top 2 and the rest of that top 10 wasn't that much. On any given day, someone couldn't have a result. And that's what made the Premier League back in those middle 2000s so enjoyable because you just didn't know.
Yeah.
Like United could be 8 points back with 5 games to go, and you would back United still somehow win the title because it's Fergie time, right?
Yeah.
This day and age is a bit different. The gap between City and Liverpool, because they're so mega, you know, they're 2 differently run clubs. City have all the money in the world, buy who they want. Mega squad. Liverpool have been so self-sustaining, you know, profit every season. Fund your transfers.
Sell players at the right time.
Yeah, finally we've cut loose and signed some couple big names on big money, right? Nunez, you know, back Alisson, and
Verge.
and Verge, right? They're your big three that we've actually gone, bang, there's the big price, big dollars. But we've had the money in the club to do it, right? Two different ways of going at it, but the fact that that's how both teams are, we are always increasing the gap to Chelsea, who've had to go for a little bit of a rebuild, United, who are going for a massive rebuild for their own precaution. Arsenal is not even in the stratosphere, right, of these top two. It's a different ball game, a different league.
Yeah.
And because the squads are so much bigger now than back in the middle 2000s, even when you rotate, you're not getting as many upsets. Because unless it's a massive injury crisis, the reserve side of these two sides will beat most sides in the Prem. Where back in the middle 2000s, the squad depth wasn't there. Like, Ferguson had to rely on Makeda there to score late win. Imagine if Ferguson had the money that he had in today's day and age.
Yeah, but then the pool of Man United, they'd be Man City. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. It's just different times. Yeah.
And that's how it goes. So we're not saying that Fergie era and that middle
just different.
Era is just a different type of how the Premier League was run and how the Premier League's gone. And there's going to be a day, and it may come after Pep leaves, and it may come when Klopp ends up retiring and Gerrard becomes in charge of Liverpool, which is the obvious progression, that Chelsea get it right and a bit more closer. And United get it right under Ten Hag. And then all of a sudden Arteta keeps getting it right. And that's where you
go. And Conte gets it right at Spurs.
Again. Yeah, and then it all shrinks back together. That's how it goes.
Cycles.
Just in an era that we're in a cycle where two teams are miles ahead of the rest.
Yeah, 100%. So I think, look, end of the day, to wrap it up, I think we both have City taking the league with Liverpool very close behind, and then it's going to be a fun season. It really is. I think it's another one. World Cup's going to make it really interesting in the middle. I think that's going to be huge. Plenty of talking points. So look, we've got a couple questions from the Discord. Let me bring them up. So if you're not in the Discord, make sure you jump in because the link will be in the description. But I think we've got two for tonight's podcast. So a quick one about Man United. Start one, bench one, sell one of their three left-backs, Luke Shaw, Tellez, and Malaysia.
Start Shaw only because of the name and give him a chance after injury in a really poor year last year. Tellez you bench because I think there's known quality there. And as much as I don't think Masali is as bad as the rest of them, because I don't think any of them are great at the minute, you just sell him because it's not Tellez.
We only just came in this season, so I don't see a world where he's a new signing. So
yeah, well, I know, I get that too. It's just unproven.
So Tellez out the door.
If I was there, that's how I would do it. But I'm not the man.
Realistically, if I was to do this realistically, I don't know Malaysia, that's the thing.
Yeah, same here.
The fact that he's just signed, I'm going to then sell Tellez because...
Yeah, which makes obvious sense. I'm just saying that from what I know, I would be sure Tellez bench because I know what Tellez is and, then this new guy coming in.
Yeah.
For me, whatever.
And then our last question, so that was from Dim, and then our last question from Russo is, in the wake of Everton's loss to Minnesota, pre-season fixtures a good indicator of the season to come, or do they not matter? I think we've kind of spoken about this already.
Don't matter, but...
You don't want to lose 4-0, though, to an MLS team. There's levels. You can lose to a Barcelona, you can lose to a Man United, you can lose to a Spurs, but I don't think any Premier League team, regardless of what stage of pre-season they're in, should be losing 4-0 to an MLS team.
I agree. I think it just stems from the fact that, as much as I've always said it, and I will continue to say it, Frank Lampard, not a very good coach. Frank Lampard, not a very good at understanding how a game of football works in-game, gets very lost. Yet again, Frank Lampard, showing that he's not a Premier League quality manager.
Yeah, so look, I think that's a good spot to leave it on for tonight. I think we've actually seen some interesting results in the pre-season games here in Australia.
Yeah, which is good.
But they're not 4-0 losses. But anyway, Dame, for this episode, thank you once again for your input and your knowledge amongst the Premier League. We've got some exciting things to come very shortly as well, which I'm hoping you guys are going to stick around for. But
yep, I would agree. And thank you yet again, Paul, for having me on.
Perfect. So make sure to get in the description of wherever you're listening or watching this from to get amongst the socials. Damo's been streaming a heap of FIFA. I've been sort of back and forth between FIFA and FM and doing other videos and things like that and getting the podcast up. So if you do want to see our beautiful faces, you can jump over to my YouTube channel at Paulie29 to actually watch the conversation as it unfolds. But from myself and episode 56, I'm going to say a massive thank you to those that have made it to this point of the podcast, and we'll see you very, very shortly for another episode of the PD Sports Podcast.